Section 90 was a little bit tricky for me to understand. Someone in Tennyson's hearing must have made an argument like, if the dead all came back to life, it would actually be really chaotic and hard, and if the generations didn't pass on, there wouldn't be room, and we wouldn't have land, and who would, who would get to own the land if there were 4 or 5 generations hanging around? You would never get your turn. Someone must have made that kind of an argument. And Tennyson is writing section 90 kind of in response to that idea. He starts off the first stanza by saying, "He tasted love with half his mind, nor ever drank the inviolate spring where nighest heaven, who first could fling this bitter seed among mankind." So for someone to make that suggestion, to make that argument, they must never have really loved. They must not know true, real, deep love. Because if you knew love, you couldn't ever make that argument. And, Tennyson has to be aware of the reality, and that he outlines some situations that would be really awkward if the dead suddenly came back to life. But if they came who passed away, behold their brides in other hands, their hard air strides about their lands. And so if you came back suddenly, your widow has remarried, your son wants to do what he's been running the family farm, and now he wants to call the shots. It would be awkward and challenging and difficult. And I'm sure Tennyson is aware of that, but he says, love, if you knew true love, if you knew real love, you wouldn't even make the argument. I'm not going to attempt to resolve the conflict there. I think both sides make interesting arguments. Section 90. He tasted love with half his mind, nor ever drank the inviolate spring where nighest heaven, who first could fling this bitter seed among mankind. That could the dead, whose dying eyes were closed with wail, resume their life, they would but find in child and wife an iron welcome when they rise. 'Twas well indeed, when warm with wine, to pledge them with a kindly tear, to talk them o'er, to wish them here, to count their memories half divine. So he's saying at the funeral, or maybe when we're a little softened up with wine, we say how much we wish they were back, but when we're in our sober selves, we wouldn't want that. But if they came who passed away, behold their brides in other hands, their hard air strides about their lands, and will not yield them for a day. Yea, though their sons were none of these, not less the yet loved sire would make confusion worse than death, and shake the pillars of domestic peace. Ah, dear, but come thou back to me, dear is Hallam. Come thou back to me, whatever change the years have wrought. I find not yet one lonely thought that cries against my wish for thee.